I personally consider myself a Ninjago minifigure collector. As much as I do purchase the sets, I am mainly in it for minifigures. I have gone out of my way to collect every single obtainable Ninjago minifigure that is out there. I am very close to this goal, but there are still some that I am requiring. But that is not the focus of today. There is one LEGO Ninjago minifigure out there that is more expensive than the rest and is one of the most expensive LEGO items in general. And it's not really even a minifigure. It is the wooden Woo from the LEGO Ninjago movie. A hand sculpted, a very finely made piece, and it's definitely become something that a lot of people would want. But unfortunately for 99.9% of people, you will never find yourself owning a wooden Woo because of truly how elusive it is. We know for a fact that there is only 4 wooden Woos in existence, and we only vaguely know of the whereabouts of half of them. But the thing is that maybe one day one of these will pop up, and we'll truly understand the scope of what this thing is truly worth. But as of now, we only have vague estimates, and we only have vague stories as to where these things actually are. But that's what I want to go through today. I want to document what we actually know about wooden Woo, the ins and outs of it, and where some of them truly actually are. It's a fairly interesting thing, and especially is important considering the actual value that these things do hold. So let's take a little look into the history of Ninjago's most expensive item, figure out vaguely speaking where all of them went, and just talk about this amazing little piece, because I do think it's fascinating, and it is unfortunate that no one will be able to get one, but it's still just cool to know that something like this does exist, and more importantly, where they actually are. Before we do go anywhere though, because there's so little documentation on these wooden Woos and we have so few images of them, you're not going to get my standard image overlay. You're not going to see many images in the way of Woo, so you're just going to get some Ninjago footage as I talk about things. Of course the occasional image, but that is about it. So hopefully John Lego doesn't kill my channel. But anyways, one thing that we do know, like I said, is that there's only 4 of them out there, and all of them did go their own separate ways. There has not been 2 wooden Woos within the same place at once. So where actually are they? Well, we actually only have definitive answers for 2 of them, but I'll go into those afterwards. 2 of them, we basically have no idea. We know that they went to some of the crew and or cast, and we know that they actually did take them with them, but we've had no confirmation of name, and they probably want to remain private, purely just down to how expensive the thing truly is. My honest guess is that those 2 are probably just within some sort of trophy cabinet or in some sort of LEGO collection from the crew, and they're just out there somewhere and they are just privately enjoying them, and that is absolutely fantastic. What is interesting though is that it is confirmed that 2 of them are in the hands of the crew. There was a rumor for the longest time that I actually believed until I made this video that Jackie Chan himself actually did have one himself, but there's been no official confirmation of this. He has actually never outright stated, nor has anyone actually stated that he does actually own one of them. It seems to be a fairly common misconception that I actually did believe myself. But yeah, 2 of them are just unknown. 2 of them just went away quietly, and I doubt that they'll ever come back. Of course there is always a chance, and if it did, it would probably go up for auction, and that would certainly be very interesting. We'd have to see a load of people throw their mansions and private jets at the thing, because it's definitely one of those items that a lot of people would definitely want, and if 25% of all of them that exist went up for auction, it would definitely attract a lot of attention. And that is really funny, because this thing is estimated to have a value of 100 grand. I really do think it would go for a lot more than that, especially this far on. But honestly, who knows, and who knows if one of them would ever actually pop up. But like I said, that is the story on 2 of them. But let's now take a look at the ones that we are actually aware of in terms of its whereabouts. The first one, which I do feel like we know the most about, is actually coming from the ownership of Simon Lucas. He is LEGO's key designer and producer for the Ninjago movie itself, and he managed to successfully get his hands on one, and he's had it in his collection ever since. We mainly know things from him through the video that he actually did with Duck Bricks, and it's a fairly good way of actually having an understanding on what the wooden Woo minifigure is truly like. Honestly, it's very good that we actually have some form of documentation on it, because I feel like it would have gone completely away if we never actually had this kind of instance. But from all accounts, it seems to be that it was his pride and joy when it did come to his own personal collection, and I'm really glad that he does have it. I honestly think that he's more than deserving of it, especially because of all that he has done. But it's really cool that he actually has given the opportunity to show it off. We know so much more about it just purely because of him, and I do think that is a fantastic thing to actually have. But yeah, that's the location of the 3rd wooden Woo, and I do think that is really cool to actually have. And the fourth one, we know about this one purely just because it's been stated outright where it is, but we've never actually seen it fully in person. It's actually at the Lego house within Denmark. We know that they have a vault of Ninjago and other Lego theme artifacts and pieces and minifigures and sets and all of the like. So one of them did end up there, I'm assuming for preservation purposes, which I do think is fantastic because it's good that one of them is secured within the company itself. It means that it won't become lost to time. It doesn't mean that one of them or all of them can actually just become fully lost in terms of the scope. It is nice to know that one of them is going to be there for a very long time, and maybe they'll show it again one day. Unfortunately though, even though we know definitively where it is, that is basically it. As far as I'm aware, there's not even images of where it actually is. It's a shame. It's probably the one that actually has the box that we are aware of as well. I wouldn't be shocked if that one is the one that we actually see for the most part within the film. That is probably the one in my opinion, but again, we just don't really know. But those are the four. That is essentially the most of what we know about all of them and where their current whereabouts are. But the only thing I really want to cover beyond that point is just simply what could happen with them in the future. Like I said, the two that we currently don't really know anything about could always end up at an auction, could always end up resurfacing in some capacity, but I honestly think the chances of that are unlikely. So what is it in terms of the future for Wood and Woo? I do think for the most part they're just going to remain heirlooms within the families that it has ended up in. I think the people who own it, for example like Simon Lucas, he'll probably pass it down to his children. He'll probably then be passed down again and again, and I don't think they'll ever actually enter the public space. But hey, maybe it will. We don't entirely know. But the question is, what if it did? And what would it actually be worth? Honestly, I think it would go for a lot more than people initially thought. Like I said, people assumed that it was actually going to be around 100,000, and I do think that is a fairly interesting number at that, but I do think that it would truly be more. The only thing I have for comparison, for example, is the most expensive minifigure that has ever been sold to date, and that was the solid gold 14 karat C3PO from 2007. 5 of them were made, and that actually went for about 200,000. Now, I'm not saying that the Wood and Woo has the same value of something that is solid gold, but I'm saying that it's definitely within somewhere near that. I truly think that if it went up for auction today, I think we'd be looking at a scenario where the Wood and Woo would probably go for somewhere between its initial valuation and the 200,000 of the solid gold C3PO. I think the Wood and Woo would go for somewhere in the ballpark of 150. I think it's definitely worth a lot more because that evaluation of 100 came from around the time the movie itself came out. We're now 9 years beyond that point, so I think it's definitely safe to say that it would have gone up in terms of its value. Not to mention that something that would definitely drive that price up is the fact that it's never actually been publicly auctioned. It would be a complete one of a kind. It would be something that we would never have actually seen before and maybe not even see again. So that would definitely also be a massive aspect. So I truly do think if it ever did happen, it would go for a lot more than people truly realize. And I for one would be curious to see it, but also I kind of don't want to. Because if this video has taught me anything, is that I really do think these kind of artifacts that have come from aspects of Ninjago are truly something special. I honestly hope that the 4 remain to be within privacy. I hope the 4 never surface and never get publicly auctioned, because it seems to be that those 4 at the very least are now within safe hands, and I'd like to think that all of them will be preserved for years to come. But ultimately, that is my opinion, and I would like to know what you guys think. Because would you want to see an auction for a Wood and Woo? Would it be something that you think would go for more than what I've stated, or maybe even less? I'd be curious to know what you think, and also just what you think of this whole thing in general. Is Wood and Woo something you think should exist? Is it something that you're surprised is this valued and this talked about? I honestly think it's an interesting topic, so I would like to hear what you think. Because on an overall, I think the Wood and Woo is absolutely fascinating, and as little as we know about it, I think it's still absolutely extraordinary to actually know. If we do end up finding anything else down in the line, it would be really cool to actually see. But I think as of now, we know everything that we will know about it, unless something like this goes public. But ultimately, I do think it won't happen, at least for the time being. But thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel further, which you don't have to, you could become a channel member and join the legends on screen. Thanks to each and every single one of you, you are all absolute legends. But like I said, that is about it for today, and take care. Okay, bye!